Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to call the meeting of the Common Council to order. I will ask our clerk to call the roll
Alderman
to
Reich.
determine our quorum.
Here. Sorry. Alderman Reinke.
She said here.
She said here. I can
said
vouch for
here.
that.
All right, I believe it.
Here.
We're off to a great start.
Vitale.
Here.
Weigel.
Here.
Barzak.
Here.
Shapleski.
Here.
Haas.
Here.
Lysick.
Here.
And May.
Here.
That's 10 present.
We have a quorum. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led this evening by Alderperson Reinke.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Seated flag. Moving on to item D on our agendas, we have 6 items for public hearing this evening. I'll ask our clerk to read public hearing number 1.
Ordinance to amend subsection 12.06 definitions and subsection 12.10 general provisions of the revised municipal code relative to motor vehicle and small engine repair in residential districts.
Mr. Stiebel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In our zoning code, we unfortunately define garage very broadly, which encompasses a commercial garage. So theoretically, you could not change your oil or a tire in your own garage. That was pointed out to us, and one of the aldermen rightfully said, let's get that changed. And that's the purpose of this public hearing this evening, is to allow the do-it-yourselfer that we have lots of in West Allis, glad to have that, be able to do work in their garage and still respect the neighborhood. Obviously, if we're repairing one car at a time, work should be closed inside a closed garage. Vehicles, there's no painting of it, and it's going to be during the regular part of the day and not into the evening. The Plan Commission has reviewed this recommendation, has recommended approval, and we've received no objections to date. If you have additional questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Are there any questions or comments from the members of the Common Council?
Mayor Devine?
Alderman Barzak.
Over the past few decades, this has been brought up numerous times. And the answer always in the past has been, yeah, we know it goes on, and nobody, unless there's a complaint. The issue I have is you allow this, and now you got the guy that works at Sam's Auto Repair, and he comes home at night and he works on Bill's car and Tom's car and Joe's car, and they pay him cash. And he just says, well, I'm just working on my car. I don't have a facility here. I'm just working on my car. Or you have the guy that completely rebuilds his motor inside of his garage, which we actually have on, I think it's 109th and Washington. If you go into their garage, it is literally a body or a repair shop. Now they keep the garage door closed, and so they kind of hide it a little bit, but they're still, constantly, literally rebuilding cars. What control are we going to have now that we open this up, and now everybody can do it? In the past, it was pretty simple. You can't do that. You cannot work on your car. And now all of a sudden, we're going to allow it, and you give that inch, they're going to take a foot and a half. What controls do we have to stop the guy he's not technically in business, but he's working on cars for cash for other people, maybe putting brakes on, maybe putting muffler on, or doing whatever to a particular vehicle? What safeguards do we have now? In the past, we had a big safeguard. Can't do it. What do we have now?
I think we're going to not criminalize the do-it-yourselfer, so we want to be able to get somebody to change their oil in their car. On this particular case that you're talking about, if somebody is operating a commercial garage, that will be inspected, and to determine if it is, and then they'll be ordered to cease and desist.
Yeah, but I don't think you understood. I'm just working on my car. They're paying him cash, so he works full time for somebody else. And he's doing this on the side, and he's taking cash and working on other cars. And there's plenty of people that are doing that in the city. What safeguard do we have to prove that? What can we, or is there none? Or should the ordinance per se, you can only do these certain functions? You can change your oil and rotate your tires, and that's it. Something like that. Because what else would you do
That's a public policy issue. We took the broader perspective to allow the homeowner to do what they want to do on their car. If you wanted to limit it even further, you certainly could. But what we've got now is a very broad definition to let the homeowner do whatever they want with their vehicle in the car, except for painting it.
Okay, so the
And they have to
answer
have the
is
garage
we
door
have no
closed.
safeguard. We don't really have anything.
And what?
We really don't have anything. We have no safeguard. It's just, go ahead and work on your cars now.
Today, nobody can change their oil in their car.
Correct. Understood that. I understand that.
And we're trying to not make everybody a criminal. We're a community of do-it-yourselfers. We want to be able to promote that.
In the 31 years that I have been an alderperson, not one person has ever been issued a citation, or I don't even think told that they cannot continue to change their own oil, even though it technically is illegal. However, if somebody was working on their cars on a regular basis, we had the safeguard that we could go in there and say, you can't work on automobiles. You've had 10 cars in here in the last 2 weeks, and you've been constantly working on them. Hey, they're my cars. I can do this now. You can't touch me.
If that were to be the case, we would consult with the police department and have them send in an undercover
Okay.
agent to do that. That's the best one we can do.
All right, thank you.
Any other, Alderman Rote?
What control or safeguards do we have for the guys that are working on their cars just in the driveways? We got 4 and 5 lined up and they're working, not even a garage.
The way this ordinance is drafted, they have to do it inside the garage with the garage door closed.
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Chaplesky?
John, similar to Alderman Barzak's, but I have where there's a guy that has all the equipment, all the latest equipment to fix cars, so all his buddies bring his cars there. He's not doing it as a business. He's just doing it with friends. They're hanging out, so they're there every single weekend. And in the first district, 15 feet away, you can have a house with someone's bedroom and creating a lot of noise. We've looked, like you said, we've looked at this many times. And all it takes is one person to ruin everything. And so we have to work some sort of, something in there, and I don't really have the answer, to protect the person that lives 15 feet away from this garage that's going to have the noise in it. Because even with the garage door in, it makes a lot of noise.
Everybody has a cell phone these days with a camera or video camera, and they just video that car of his buddy being driven into the garage and the garage door closing. That would be enough to launch an investigation.
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Stefanski?
what if we made it as a requirement that the vehicle has to be registered by the homeowner or a family member of the homeowner? Say you're working on your kid's car who doesn't live with you anymore. That would eliminate that somewhat.
That's a reason. That's something you could propose as an amendment. That certainly drives home to what we're trying to accomplish. Is to
Right. Okay.
Any other
Mr.
questions
Mayor.
from the council? Alderman
Mr.
Vitale?
Mayor. You know, throughout the years, I mean, I did experience, like on the east end, like Alderman Chaprusky state, that we've been experiencing actually about 3, 4, 5 cases where, you know, people have done repairs, and one of them is around Mineral, like a 58, 59. But anyway, the neighbors complain about it. So by our zoning ordinance, actually, you know, they were in violation because they were doing auto repair. So in that case, I think this particular one, you know, they had to kind of minimize or not doing any outside repair, or I don't care if it's friends or whatever it was. So they stopped doing it. So to me, it's very hard really to monitor, I mean, to control until you get a complaint from the neighbors. But I'm not going to penalize, say, a homeowner or somebody that's got a garage and they say, well, I changed my own oil or changed my own tires, you know. To me, I think in a way it's good to put something like that on the books, you know, to create an ordinance. But I'm not going to really go farther to, because every time there's a complaint, many cases I did experience that it's been taken care. At least I'm familiar with one around 61st, 62nd, and Hayes, you know, I mean, there are about 4 or 5 that I've been experiencing, people doing their own themselves, but then they got friends or whatever, customers they patronize his garage, to get repairs. So really, I'm fine the way it is. So I think we still can control that. If it's a complaint come through, I think Billy especially been doing a hell of a job about that, so.
Mayor Devine,
So I have.
Alderman Lysick.
I just want to remind the council, questions are fine. This is not the time to debate an issue. This is a time for us to listen to the public. This is a public hearing. Let's listen to them. The time to debate the pros and cons of the issue is in committee.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, are there any members of the audience that have questions or comments on public hearing number 1? Okay, seeing none, we will close our first public hearing. I will ask the clerk to read public hearing number 2.
Resolution relative to determination of special use permit for a proposed community-based residential facility to replace the existing office building located at 8410 West Cleveland Avenue.
Mr. Stevel?
You skipped
I think you skipped number 2, Steve.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Retract.
Retract. Ordinance to amend subsection 12.10 to F accessory buildings of the revised municipal code relative to height of accessory buildings, garages.
Mr. Stevel?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Prior to 2014, the maximum height was 15 feet. And 2014, it was changed to be 18 feet. There was a number of Board of Appeals where they were granting variances to 18 feet or slightly above that. And so that's why the purpose of this hearing was to re-examine that issue. And I think this picture shows the good example of, here's an 18-foot tall garage. The biggest issue is this 10-foot or more, the sidewalls that really makes it rather unique. It makes it stand out higher and taller and not fit as well into the neighborhood as we would like. However, there's some ways we'd like to suggest that we could also still continue to do that, but still respond to the basic problem. And that is that we could still possibly allow 18-foot garages. The ordinance before you tonight is to change it from 15 feet, to delete it from 18 feet and change it to 15 feet. I might note that. 16 feet. 15 feet used to be the ordinance in 2015.
John, you said 15, you mean 16, that you're changing it to 16.
Yeah, we changed it to 16. That's what the proposed ordinance says. It used to be 1515, and it was changed to 18, and now we're changing it to 16. Here's another good example of the differences between the garages and how they change the appearance of a neighborhood. And this is another example of how much taller that they look. However, it's not so much the height of the building as it is the sidewalls. I'll talk about that in a minute here. Here's that same building from the other side, from the non-alley, say from the street side. And that seems to conform well with the building. And what we want to focus on is the house itself, or the home itself. Here's an example of where it doesn't. And there's also an elevation change, which makes it even more pronounced, that this house here has this type of a garage. And that makes it, this is what really, I think, has captured our attention as to why we might want to do something different, either the proposal before you or something slightly different. Here's an example of an 18-foot tall garage that doesn't look that out of character to the house. And that's because this wall height is 8 feet to 9 feet, and somewhere in that area keeps it more consistent with the whole neighborhood. Another modification, if you would like to consider, is keeping the garage square footage the same, and you could keep this at 18 feet, but not to exceed the height of the principal building or the principal dwelling, and the wall height not to exceed 10 feet. That may help respond to allowing this to happen, but not allowing, that to happen. There's two alternatives that you may want to consider. The Plan Commission has reviewed this recommendation, has recommended approval of the initial ordinance as proposed. If you have additional questions, I'm glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Are there any questions from the Common Council on this item?
Mayor Devine?
Alderman Weigel?
John, it seems to me that if it's about wall height, that it is very important to have that item 4 there, because all those garages you showed had pitched roofs, but someone could conceivably build a 16-foot garage with a flat roof, and then all the walls around it would all be 16 feet also. So I think it's going to be very important, if this is what we're going to go with, that wall height be emphasized. If we're trying to keep the whole mass of the building from being so big, people will just switch to building flat roof garages.
Yes, that's exactly the case.
Thanks.
Thank you, Alderman. Any other questions from the council? Seeing none, are there any questions from the members of the audience on public hearing number 2? Okay, seeing none, we will close our second public hearing and now move on to our third item.
Resolution relative to determination of special use permit for a proposed community-based residential facility to replace the existing office building located at 8410 West Cleveland Avenue.
Thank you. Mr. Stiebel?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The zone is C2, and to allow this kind of a facility, a 3-story, 48-bed facility, would require a public hearing, and that's the purpose of this meeting tonight, is to have that public hearing. They would be 24/7 advanced care, dementia, Alzheimer's, terminally ill, senior kind of, or any kind of occupancy. The property owner is Midwest Commercial, but they'll be the operating entity is going to be Platinum Communities. Now, Platinum Communities has 6 other facilities in the Milwaukee area, and from what we've understood, have been run quite well. The existing building is 17,000 square feet, is vacant, excuse me, and there's no landscaping. There's existing cross access, which actually will remain, and we'll talk about that in just a second here. The exterior of the building is going to be brick and manufactured wood with a wraparound deck on the south and east side, and windows on a 4-sided facility. The 24,000 square feet has 12 parking stalls, and it's going to have substantial landscaping, and actually they don't own the adjacent parking lot, but they're going to be paving that over here because that's part of their arrangement. With a porta-potty to go and drop folks off, and nice landscaped areas even on top of the roof deck there in a couple of locations. They'll also have a fenced-in patio and grassed area on the west side. There'll be an opening here for light through the windows into the basement, and we'll get to that in a second here. The proposed CBRF is going to have half of a basement, and that's where we have this light well in here for the dining area, kitchen, laundry. And the first floor is more of a general area with nursing station, lounge, and reception areas. The other ones will be composed of 1 and 2 bedrooms. Some of the 1 bedrooms will actually have a shared bathroom with the occupant on the other side, so they can lock their own door and have a shared bath. The alderman requested that we send notices to a large area of the neighborhood. Usually it's 200 feet is required by law. I think the alderman asked for 600 and 430, so we had a very large area, people that were notified of this public hearing. The Plan Commission, we had a neighborhood meeting on April 9th. The Plan Commission has recommended approval, and we have no objections to date. If you have any additional questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Are there any questions from the Common Council on public hearing number 3?
Mayor Devine?
Alderman Barzak?
John, my understanding is that this is not a tax exempt property.
100% taxable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Took the wind out of Alderman Chaplesky's sails. Alderman
Mayor Devine?
Alderman Weigel?
And part 2 of that question is, do we know about how many jobs this is creating? John, do you have an idea of?
I'm just looking for that answer. I'll have it for you at recess.
Okay.
But
Thank
to answer your question, the current value is $640,000. It pays $19,000 a year in property taxes. After this is completed, we project it to pay $120,000 in property taxes.
Thank you. Do any of the...
I think there is at least, as I recall, at least 10 people during the day, and 8 to 10 on the other 2 shifts.
Any other questions from the council?
Mayor Devine,
Alderperson Ranky?
John, will this facility have a elevator?
Yes,
Okay, that's what I wanted
I
to,
believe 2 elevators.
thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Seeing none, are there any comments or questions from the members of the audience on public hearing number 3? We ask that you come up to the podium and the microphone and please give us your name and address for our official record.
Lynn Mix, 8317 West Cleveland. I am kitty corner from this facility. 8 to 10 people per shift for 48 units.
That's my guess. I'm not positive. I'll find out at recess. But
Okay.
they're going to be adequately staffed, whatever that staffing level is. We'll find out shortly.
Okay, now, I guess I'm not sure. CBRF, I guess I thought that meant nursing home, but not.
A community-based residential facility, so it could be any of these, any of the above.
It was kind of proposed originally that this was going to be assisted living. Now, all of a sudden, I saw in the paper a few weeks ago, the Journal had the drawing, which I approved the building, talked about the dementia care, and then terminally ill, are they referring to hospice care or whatever? I guess my main concern is the parking spaces. I can't believe 48 parking spaces is going to be enough for employees and visitors.
We discussed that with the operators of the facility. As they noted, they operated 6 others. They usually only have, fortunately or unfortunately, about 6 people a day that come to visit. And so the rest of them is for staffing.
Okay. I wish we could talk them into buying that whole block with the other buildings and the old filling station and garage. That would be a big improvement if they were able to do that. That's kind of an eyesore along that part, but I
Depending
do
on how
think it's,
successful this is, we'll see what happens.
that would be wonderful if we could have them do that, but I think it will be fine. I don't think there's a worry about the dementia care people wandering off and being busy streets. So I guess we're good with it. As neighbors, I don't see any of my neighbors here having a concern, and I think it will be an improvement over having that building that's been vacant for many, many years. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Any other comments or questions from the members of the audience? Okay, seeing none. You're not in the audience.
I know. But we-
Alderman Barzak.
John, her concern about leaving the facility, et cetera, my understanding is that they have a state-of-the-art system that when they walk up to the door, an alarm literally goes off before they can even open the door. Do you?
That is
I
correct.
recall
They
that
have,
being at the
they're
Plan
using the
Commission.
most state-of-the-art system to ensure that the dementia aren't out there by themselves, harming themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. If there are no other questions on public hearing number 3, we will move on our agendas. And we are going to take public hearings 4 and 5 together.
Number 4 is resolution relative to determination of special use permit for a proposed beer garden to be located at 6800 West Beecher Street. And number 5 is 2019-2020 Class B Tavern License, application number 2678 of West Allis Cheese and Sausage Shop, LLC, Mark S. Lutz, agent, doing business as West Allis Coffee and Beer Garden, for the premises located at 6800 West Beecher Street. It's a new non-existing location in regard to exceeding the quota.
Thank you. Mr. Stiebel?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think every community wishes they had more people like Mark Lutz that's taken onto a neighborhood, West Allis Cheese and Sausage, for example, and buying other properties and renovated them like Wild Roots, and soon under construction a meat facility, And now, another garage needs to be taken out of, that's going to be repaired or rechanged into a nice place to dine from both locations and to have some craft beer and coffee. So it's going to be a very interesting facility. I think the hours of operation tell us a lot about the project. Open Tuesday through Saturday till 9 p.m. and on Sunday till 4 p.m. So they're not so much of a tavern as they are as an interesting gathering place. Because the property is zoned C2, it requires a public hearing for this type of use, and that's the purpose of this meeting this evening. It's going to be about a 1,300 facility. The existing building will stay. They'll just have some significant modifications, and they'll about double the size in their outdoor patio area. They'll have a fire pit, outdoor seating, plantings, overhead pergoda, and they'll have 9 parking stalls. Hopefully this is operational not during the winter soon. Well, I think we're done with that, but this is a rendering of what it'll look like, and it's really a very attractive feature to the neighborhood, particularly going from a car garage to something of this quality and character. On the indoor, they'll have 27 seats. On the outdoor, they'll have 44. And with the pergola, as noted here on the front of the building, the garage doors are replaced with glass garage doors so that in the summertime they can open. And even these windows here will be a half a garage door that can also be open. There'll be significant with siding on the building and other improvements such as painting the roof line. The Plan Commission has reviewed this, has recommended approval, and if you have additional questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Are there any questions from the Common Council on these 2 items?
Mayor Devine?
Alderman Weigel.
I have some questions, maybe they're more for the city attorney. And since we've taken these 2 items together, one is about the licensing for this location. It's my understanding the state of Wisconsin tells municipalities that we cannot force Class B tavern licenses to close before 2 a.m. or 2:30 on the weekends. Here, we're talking about giving, I mean, this will be operated, it's my understanding, as an extension of West Allis Cheese and Sausage. But for a variety of reasons, it will be a separate business with a separate license. So this will essentially be conceivably a freestanding bar. And here we're agreeing, he's agreeing to closing at a certain time, 9 p.m. or earlier. But the state of Wisconsin tells us, and I think in the past our previous city attorney had said that it's out of our hands, that if he wanted to keep at least the indoor portion open till 2 a.m. or 2:30, and I'm not saying Mark would, and I don't believe he would, but none of us are going to be here forever, and someday the business is going to change hands, and I just, those would be my concerns, is that we're not approving something that might morph into something else. And I see the city attorney is here, so.
Alderman Weigel, yes, there's a state law that prohibits the city from imposing limitations on the 2 a.m., 2:30 a.m. closing times that the state law currently has. Your concerns, though, would be only if the current licensee would change hours of operation. If a future licensee would come in requesting that same location, then the council at that point in time would review that applicant specifically as a new applicant and could deny it if that person's not going to propose the same hours. So the level of trust you have in the current licensee would always be the same here. The current licensee would have to be the one who would increase the hours.
So you're saying that if we approved it as it's presented as today, and 2 years from now, the current applicant was still there, but he said, you know what, there's soccer games that are on in Ireland at whatever, or games the Packers are playing in Japan, and I want to stay open till 1 o'clock in the morning, he could?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that would be my concern. And he could even allow outdoor service? Or is the outdoor service area treated differently than the indoor service area? I guess I wouldn't have as big a problem if it was just the indoor service. But if that patio was open till 1 o'clock in the morning with soccer fans or whatever, you know, it's a global world now. I guess I'm just expressing my concern here. I want to make sure that if we have a way to address it, that we do.
I'd have to look at the chapter 9 of the code to ensure that the exterior premises would have similar type of limitation. However, if you're going to grant a license where the premises is exterior, I'm not sure if there's a way to limit the actual service of alcohol. There'd be a 10 o'clock noise limitation on the exterior area. So that would be one thing, but as far as service of alcohol, I don't know of a way to limit the timing, whether it's interior or exterior.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Alderman Barzak.
John, my understanding is that we're approving the special use, which the special use is what is warranting those hours.
That is correct.
Liquor has nothing to do with it, but the special use, to have this approved, has to apply within those hours.
That's correct. This is just for the special use.
Correct.
But we're taking items 4 and 5
We're
together.
taking item 5, which
Correct.
is the license.
Correct, but the special use is saying that those are the hours. The license, fine, you grant the license, but the special use is controlling those hours. So number 4 is controlling the hours. Whatever happens with 5 happens, but 4 is controlling those hours of when he can operate.
That's true.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council on items 4 and 5? No questions. We will go to the audience. Is there anybody in the crowd with questions or comments on items 4 or 5? Okay, we will close our 4th and 5th public hearing, and I will ask our clerk to read the 6th and final public hearing.
Resolution relative to determination of special use permit for Holiday Inn Express, a proposed hotel to be located at 10201 West Lincoln Avenue.
Mr. Stevel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the 102nd Lincoln block, there's an older industrial building, originally Weir Steel corporate headquarters, turned into a multi-story building, multi-tenant office building. It's 4 stories. I don't think there's anybody on the 2nd and 4th floor. I think there's probably only 3 tenants left in the building, and they're soon to be vacated. And that's why the problem was probably could be sold at a more reasonable price to be torn down, is that it already fulfilled its useful life expectancy and was declining appreciably, and it only would have gotten to look worse. So we're kind of glad, we're delighted actually that somebody's looking at revitalizing this property. The Lincoln Hospitality Group is going to be demolishing the old Weir Steel building, and I'll show you in a moment here, and putting another hotel here, and then once this is demolished, it'll be for a future medical clinic or some other reuse. The property is zoned C4, and a hotel is a special use, and that's the purpose of the public here tonight, is to consider the special use for a Holiday Inn Express, as noted here. The proposed hotel is 107 rooms. It'll be located at the back of that lot. And this lot will initially be put into grass until they reach out and find another tenant. And if they don't have that by, I think, 2021, then they're going to be landscaping it extensively as per the existing site plan. The building will be 4 stories, about 60,000 square feet. As I mentioned, 107 rooms. It'll have a very small conference room, probably about 400 square feet. It's not a big purpose of this room to have, this hotel to have banquets. It'll have an indoor pool, this pool, and this is the back of the building. There'll be outdoor seating in the back of the building. This is the front, the north side of the building. As I noted, there's the pool. Here's the conference room, so you can get a feel for that. It's going to be a small facility along with the other hotel rooms. The developer has made very interesting and very good compromises with the city to get larger windows on the ground floor to help accentuate the sense of arrival. Aluminum composite panel on the building over here. Composite panel, ivory colored in this area here, and then a composite stone veneer on the rest of the building, which will, I think, make a very delightful looking addition to the community. The primary access is going to be on 102nd Street. These two will be closed, these driveways, and there'll be a driveway in here. There'll also be another driveway in this area here. I know there was some concern, particularly from the city engineer, that somebody would try to come into this area here and make turn, run into here, and get into here. But I think that's certainly a difficult process to achieve. We can't outrule stupidity, but we think that this should probably work. The developer has put a lot of access to the facility to get to the street, a lot of driveways, concrete paths, and this area here will be held in reserve until they get another development, and then that development will probably come in for a public hearing as well. The Planning Commission has reviewed this proposal, has recommended approval, and we've received 3 letters of support, excuse me, and 1 objection from to the east across the freeway about a traffic concern. If you have additional questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Are there any questions from the Common Council on this item?
Mayor Devine.
Alderperson Ranky.
John, will this particular hotel or express hotel have a restaurant or a breakfast area?
No.
No, nothing, no kitchen area at all?
I do want to mention that the developer has also requested some public assistance. We're evaluating that. It has to meet the but-for test, but for that public assistance, this would not go forward. And so we're still evaluating that, so we don't know if they'll need a TIF or not, but we'll look into that.
Along with that, would they have a bar area?
No.
No, just a simple.
They'll have the typical kitchenette for morning coffee and rolls and donuts, that sort of thing, but not a restaurant.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council? Seeing none from the council, are there any questions from the members of the audience? Okay, seeing none, we will close our 6th and final public hearing. We will move to page 2 on our agenda, citizen participation. This is the chance for residents to address the council during this 30-minute period. We ask again that you give us your name and address and that you limit your comments to no more than 5 minutes. The council cannot take action on topics raised by the speakers and cannot discuss topics, but we can listen. Does anybody wish to address the council under citizen participation this evening? Okay, we will close citizen participation. We will move to item F, which will list our standing committees' room numbers. They will be meeting during recess. They are listed on your agendas on page 2. Item G is the mayor's report. I just have 2 quick things. Excuse me. Last month, we did a proclamation to celebrate the 100th birthday of Liberace, and somebody from the foundation took a copy of that out to Las Vegas for the celebration, and I just wanted to share with everybody a response or a thank you note that we received from the foundation to Mayor Dan Devine in the city of West Allis. We are all most appreciative of the wonderful honor you bestowed upon the late Liberace, a proud native of West Allis, to help commemorate his 100th birthday. Lee was very proud of being born in West Allis, even though at a young age he and his family moved next door to West Milwaukee. He was never afraid to correct the media when they would mention he was born in Milwaukee, saying, "Actually, I was born in West Allis and lived there for a period of my life." As you probably know, Liberace went on to fame and fortune and was one of the most successful and highest paid entertainers in the world. However, he never forgot his hometown and its people. He often said, "Don't be misled by this flamboyant exterior. Underneath, I remain the same simple boy from Wisconsin." He would be most appreciative of all the honors this past week from West Allis. From the Friends of Liberace Foundation, we thank each and every one of you people in the great city of West Allis. The only other thing I wanted to mention in my mayor's report was, once again, just thanking the multitudes of people that pulled off a la carte festival in our downtown this past Sunday. I think some of the other alder people may talk about this as well, but they were estimating 13,000 attendees. We had lucky, beautiful weather again with the rain we've been having this spring. It was nice to have a dry day. And I want to thank the city crews that allowed this to happen with the street closures. I want to thank the police department, the fire department, IT, everybody from the various departments that presented and was available for questions and comments. It was really another, excuse me, puberty's a wonderful thing. I think it was really a shining star for the city. I think we did really well, and really proud event for the city. That concludes the mayor's report. Do we have any reports from the alderpersons?
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Barzak?
Too, would like to talk a little bit about a la carte. We had a tent, and we had two performers in there, Eric Diamond and Marcel. My understanding is they have played in that tent now for 12 years. And then I also want to thank the beer tenders that helped out with myself and my son, Eric Barzak, my cousin, Todd Barzak, good friend of mine, Al Maurman, and Jeff Sikich, who was on the school board. We raised in our tent sales of exceed of $5,300. And we had 3 tip jars out, and in the tip jars, which we do not keep a single penny, every penny of the profits, every penny of the tip jars goes right back to the parade and the bid district. And there was over $700 in the tip jars, for a total of over $6,000 that we brought in, and we worked our butts off. I also want to thank Tom Lysick, who brought us brisket sandwiches, because we could not get out of that tent, and we were starving, and he saved our lives. So we appreciate that, Tom. Thank you very much. And I also want to thank, of course, Diane and Emily Eineker and Don Falk. I mean, these people, I don't know how they got any sleep the days before, and I'm not sure they're still sleeping. But a phenomenal event that they put on. My understanding, it was the highest attended a la carte. And there's no numbers because you don't come in, but I guess it was just based on, you couldn't walk down Greenfield Avenue. So I think that right there kind of said it all. So again, I want to thank the bartenders that volunteered all their time, and it was an extremely successful event. And just again, proud to be West Allis. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other reports from the alderpersons? I do want to just back up and mention one thing I forgot. I know he was on our agenda tonight, but Mark Lutz, who does the Dine and Dash as well as the Curds and Kegs event at the Farmers Market, also pledged to give half of those proceeds to the West Allis Dog Park. So he had dropped off a check of over $5,000 last week to go towards the dog park project. So I want to thank him as well, since we're talking donations and contributions. Thank you. If there are no other alderpersons' reports,
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Lysick.
I move for approval of the minutes of the Common Council regular meeting of May 21st, 2019.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Alderman May. Are there any adjustments from the minutes of last meeting? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. We have nothing under item J and nothing under item K.
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Lysick.
I move that we stand in recess until conclusion of the committee meeting.
Second.
There is a motion with a second by Alderperson Reinke. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We are in recess.